Welcome to Hong Kong Brief. The content of the briefing includes: did India's spacecraft really land near the moon's south pole? Son of jailed tycoon Jimmy Lai says it's in Hong Kong's interest to free him. EU chamber lobbies China to walk the talk on market liberalization. Alibaba's Siniao to heat up China's logistics industry after $1 billion IPO. The 66 countries where tourists outnumber locals. Did India's spacecraft really land near the moon's south pole? South China Morning Post. China's founding father of lunar exploration, Ouyang Ziyuan, has disputed India's claim that its Chandrayaan-3 spacecraft landed near the moon's south pole in August. Ouyang argued that the spacecraft did not land in the polar region of the moon's south pole, despite Prime Minister Narendra Modi's claim that it had reached an area where no other country in the world has ever reached. Ouyang stated that the landing site was within the moon's southern hemisphere but not in the polar region, which he defined as being between the latitudes of 88.5 and 90 degrees. Son of jailed tycoon Jimmy Lai says it's in Hong Kong's interest to free him. Reuters. Sebastian Lai, the son of media tycoon Jimmy Lai, who is currently jailed in Hong Kong, has called for his father's release. Jimmy Lai, the founder of pro-democracy newspaper Apple Daily, has been imprisoned for 1,000 days on charges related to China's national security law. Sebastian Lai, who has not seen his father in 3 years, described him as a peaceful man and a pro-democracy activist. He expressed optimism that the Hong Kong government would release his father, stating that it would not benefit them to let him die in jail. China's diplomatic mission in Geneva called for a boycott of a British-organized event on media freedom in Hong Kong, but still sent a representative who accused the UK and US of supporting Jimmy Lai. Rebecca Vincent of Reporters Without Borders welcomed China's presence at the event, stating that the Chinese government needs to hear the concerns raised by organizations like hers. EU chamber lobbies China to walk the talk on market liberalization. South China Morning Post. The European Union Chamber of Commerce in China is urging mainland authorities to make efforts to turn Shanghai into a global financial hub in order to attract foreign direct investment, FDI, into the Chinese economy. The chamber is calling for reductions in red tape, tax rates, and market access restrictions, as well as full convertibility of the yuan. Shanghai has been working to attract FDI after the end of strict COVID-19 pandemic measures, but the chamber says that structural issues around the currency and market access need to be addressed. Alibaba's Siniao to heat up China's logistics industry after $1 billion IPO. South China Morning Post. Siniao, the logistics unit of Alibaba, is set to conduct an initial public offering, IPO, in Hong Kong to raise at least $1 billion, making it the second largest IPO in the world this year. Siniao, which recorded more than 1.5 billion cross-border e-commerce parcel deliveries in the recent financial year, is one of the world's top logistics services providers, and the IPO will help to strengthen Siniao's management. Upon completion of the IPO, Alibaba, which currently holds about 69.54% of Siniao, will continue to hold more than a 50% interest. The 66 countries where tourists outnumber locals. Telegraph. Andorra is the country with the most tourists per capita, receiving over 3 million overseas visitors a year. The country measures 181 square miles and is home to 83,523 people. The UNWTO's figures only refer to overnight visitors, so the country is deserving of its number 1 ranking. Andorra is known for its outdoor activities such as skiing and hiking. Macau has the most tourists per square mile than any other destination on the planet, with 1.69 million tourists per square mile in 2019. Macau is a casino hub and tourists from mainland China and Hong Kong are attracted to the region. Vatican City is not included in the UNWTO's data because tourists are not permitted to stay overnight. However, the city receives around 6 million day visitors each year, which is 7,853 tourists per resident or 31.58 million per square mile. The country with the fewest tourists per capita is Bangladesh, with just 0.002 tourists per resident per year. 3 astronauts returned to Earth after a year in space following 6-month delay. South China Morning Post. U.S. astronaut Frank Rubio, Russian cosmonauts Sergei Prokopyev, and Dmitry Petlin landed in Kazakhstan after more than a year on the International Space Station. Rubio broke the record for the longest continuous space flight by an American, spending 371 days in orbit. The crew were meant to land 6 months earlier but were delayed after their original spacecraft sprang a leak. Rubio said the psychological aspect of spending so long in space was tougher than he expected. Don't write off Hong Kong and mainland China, despite headwinds, analysts say. South China Morning Post. Shanghai's commercial property market offers significant investment potential despite the challenging business environment in Hong Kong and mainland China, according to analysts. The city's financial services sector is expected to grow and eventually overtake that of Hong Kong, with banks, asset managers, insurance firms, and the stock exchange all set to expand, said Henry Chin, Global Head of Investor Thought Leadership and Head of Research for Asia Pacific at CBRE. While China's economic recovery has lost some momentum, Shanghai's stock market capitalization is larger than that of Hong Kong's. Hong Kong's Asian Games flag bearer and rugby star undecided on Olympic dream. South China Morning Post. Hong Kong Rugby Sevens player Salam Kamshing is considering whether to pursue his Olympic dream after winning a gold medal at the Asian Games. Helped Hong Kong overcome Japan and South Korea to win the tournament, but admitted he needed to determine whether his body could withstand the rigors of an Olympic Games campaign. Hong Kong is set to try to book a Paris 2024 spot at November's Asian qualification competition in Japan. Yu's wife is also due to give birth to the couple's first child in December. China and Japan shippers are worst emitters, says UN report. Nikkei Asia. Chinese and Japanese shipping companies are the worst carbon dioxide emitters, the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, UNCTAD, said in an annual report. It said the industry, which accounts for nearly 3% of global greenhouse gas emissions, must decarbonize as soon as possible and recommended levies and financial contributions to accelerate a just and fair transition. The industry was criticized for its lackluster climate commitments made during a meeting of the International Maritime Organization in July, with some campaigners blaming Japan and China for watering down ambitions. Hong Kong's Unity Group launches joint venture with UAE firm on green tech. South China Morning Post. Hong Kong Green Energy Services company Unity Group has formed a joint venture with LED International Investment, an investment firm based in Abu Dhabi and backed by Sheikh Hamdan bin Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, a son of the late Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan, founder of the United Arab Emirates, UAE. The partnership will see Unity using its technologies to optimize energy efficiency in 700 commercial and residential buildings in Abu Dhabi, with plans to expand across the UAE and the Middle East. Asian Games, Hong Kong cyclists, sailors add historic medals to city's tally. South China Morning Post. Hong Kong won 2 silver and 1 bronze medal in sailing at the Asian Games without even competing due to the cancellation of several water sports events. The medals were awarded to Stephanie Norton and Ma Quanqing in the women's single dinghy and women's windsurfing IQ foil, respectively, while Ching Chinging won bronze in the men's windsurfing IQ foil. In addition, the Hong Kong women's team won a bronze in the team pursuit event in cycling. Japan also set a new Asian Games record in the team pursuit event. However, Hong Kong's tennis star Coleman Wong-Chuk Lam lost in the men's singles quarterfinals, and the men's foil team missed out on a medal in fencing. The city's table tennis player Du Hoikam won a mixed doubles match with Wang Chunting and will continue competing in the women's singles and doubles events. China Evergrande chairman reportedly put under police watch, liquidation risk looms. The Globe and Mail. Evergrande chairman, Hui Ka-yen, has been placed under police surveillance, according to unnamed sources. The move comes as the developer faces a liquidity crisis and an ongoing threat of liquidation. Evergrande has the largest debt of any property developer in the world, with over $300 billion in total liabilities. The article did not indicate why Hui was placed under surveillance, but said it was a type of police action that did not mean he would be charged with a crime. A person close to Evergrande said Hui had stopped contacting staff over the past few days. Morning update: House Speaker steps down after honoring man who fought with Nazi unit. The Globe and Mail. Canadian Speaker of the House of Commons, Anthony Rota, has been forced to resign following his decision to invite a member of a Nazi unit to speak at the House of Commons during an official visit by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Rota is the 8th speaker to resign, but the first to do so over a controversy that made international headlines. His decision to honor Yaroslav Humka as a Ukrainian hero and a Canadian hero who fought against Russia during World War II has caused embarrassment for Canada. Opposition parties are now calling for Prime Minister Justin Trudeau to issue a personal apology for this incident. In other news, the allegations that the Indian government was involved in the killing of a prominent Sikh leader from British Columbia have caused a deep rift in relations between Canada and India. Both countries have been engaged in tit-for-tat responses, with Ottawa suspending free trade talks and a Canadian trade mission to India, and New Delhi pausing visa processing services for Canadians. Both countries have expelled diplomats from each other's missions. On patrol with the police battling Colombia's illegal wildlife trade. The Guardian. Colombian police are cracking down on the illegal wildlife trade in an effort to save endangered species and protect the country's biodiversity. The trade in protected animals is estimated to be worth as much as $23 billion per year globally, making it the fourth most lucrative illegal industry. Traffickers have developed complex networks to transport live animals undetected, with methods including sedating parrots and taping them to their bodies, and wrapping birds in socks and stuffing them in cargo boxes. The demand for illegal wildlife products is driven by criminal syndicates with global networks, making international collaboration crucial to combat the trade. Colombia has recently increased surveillance efforts and launched more counter-trafficking operations, resulting in the confiscation of thousands of animals across the country. However, the law has yet to catch up, with the maximum prison sentence for animal trafficking being just 5 years. Local judges, often swayed by bribes or community connections, frequently throw out cases, discouraging police from pursuing traffickers. Asian Games volunteers sift through rubbish, find 12-year-old Hong Kong athlete's phone. South China Morning Post. Hundreds of volunteers at the Asian Games in Hangzhou, China, helped a 12-year-old Hong Kong chess player locate her lost mobile phone. Liu Tianyi reported her phone missing during the opening ceremony, and volunteers spent 24 hours searching the 523,000 square meter stadium, sifting through tens of thousands of rubbish bags to find it. While Liu expressed gratitude for the help, the incident drew criticism from some Chinese netizens who questioned the use of manpower for such a task. Liu will compete in the chess final on Thursday evening. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Dr. Six from the 6 Degree World, your trusted observer of all things news-related. Today, we have a mix of stories from around the world. Let's dive in. First up, we have a dispute over India's claim of landing near the moon's south pole. China's lunar exploration expert, Ouyang Ziyuan, disagrees with India's statement and argues that the spacecraft did not land in the polar region. Well, it seems like we have a case of he said, she said in the world of space exploration. Moving on, the son of jailed media tycoon Jimmy Lai is calling for his father's release in Hong Kong. Sebastian Lai believes that it is in the city's interest to free his father, who has been imprisoned for 1,000 days on charges related to China's national security law. Let's hope for a peaceful resolution to this situation. In other news, the European Union Chamber of Commerce is urging China to make efforts to turn Shanghai into a global financial hub. They are calling for reductions in red tape, tax rates, and market access restrictions. It seems like the chamber wants China to walk the talk on market liberalization. Good luck with that. Next, Alibaba's logistics unit, Cainiao, is set to conduct a massive IPO in Hong Kong. With over 1.5 billion cross-border e-commerce parcel deliveries, Cainiao is one of the world's top logistics services providers. This IPO will surely heat up China's logistics industry. Let's hope they deliver on their promises. Now, let's talk about tourism. Did you know that Andorra receives the most tourists per capita? With only 83,523 residents and over 3 million visitors a year, it's no wonder this small country is a popular destination. On the other hand, Bangladesh has the fewest tourists per capita, with just 0.002 tourists per resident per year. Looks like Andorra is the place to be. In space news, 3 astronauts have returned to Earth after spending over a year on the International Space Station. U.S. astronaut Frank Rubio even broke the record for the longest continuous space flight by an American. I bet they're happy to be back on solid ground, but I wonder if they miss the view from up there. Now, let's not write off Hong Kong and mainland China just yet, despite the headwinds they are facing. Analysts believe that Shanghai's commercial property market offers significant investment potential. The city's financial services sector is expected to grow and eventually overtake Hong Kong. Looks like Shanghai is giving Hong Kong a run for its money. In sports news, Hong Kong's Rugby Sevens player Salim Yukamshing is considering whether to pursue his Olympic dream after winning a gold medal at the Asian Games. He's got a lot on his plate, with a baby on the way and the Asian qualification competition coming up. I hope he makes the right decision for himself and his family. In environmental news, Chinese and Japanese shipping companies have been named the worst carbon dioxide emitters by the United Nations. The shipping industry needs to decarbonize as soon as possible, according to the UN. Let's hope they take these recommendations seriously and make a positive change for the environment. Speaking of the environment, Hong Kong's Unity Group has formed a joint venture with a UAE firm to optimize energy efficiency in buildings. This partnership will help promote green technology in Abu Dhabi and across the Middle East. It's great to see companies working together towards a greener future. In sports updates, Hong Kong won several medals in sailing and cycling at the Asian Games. Despite the cancellation of several water sports events, Hong Kong's athletes still managed to bring home the silver and bronze. Congratulations to them for their achievements. Lastly, we have some news from Canada. The Speaker of the House of Commons has resigned following a controversy involving a member of a Nazi unit. This incident has caused embarrassment for Canada and calls for a personal apology from the Prime Minister. In addition, tensions between Canada and India have escalated due to allegations of Indian government involvement in the killing of a Sikh leader from British Columbia. It seems like diplomacy is needed to mend these strained relations. Well, that's all the news I have for you today. Remember, it's important to stay informed and keep an open mind. Now, it's your turn. What are your thoughts on these stories? I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.